Well, man, that does not inspire confidence going into the postseason. I am not gonna lie. Shoot. Hi. I do stuff for the Chicago Bears. They lost today. And because they lost today, and the Philadelphia Eagles also lost today, the Chicago Bears have clinched the 2 seed in the NFC, which is great. That's guaranteed 2 playoff games. That's 2 guaranteed home playoff games for the Bears. That's great. That's awesome. That's super fun. Thing is, we get a rubber match. We get a rematch. We got to do this song and dance for a 3rd time this year. The Chicago Bears will be playing the Green Bay Packers in the first round of the NFL playoffs. Okay. Sure. Bring it on. Bring it on. It's the first time ever since the NFL has had even like a playoff format that the Bears and the Packers will play in the first round. This will be just the 2nd playoff meeting between these 2 teams in the Super Bowl era. They had 1 playoff game before that, the 1941 NFL West Division playoff game, because the only time the NFL did playoff games before the Super Bowl was if 2 teams had the same record at the end of the regular season were tied that way. That's how they did tiebreakers. They had an extra game. So the Bears, that is their only playoff win against the Packers, funnily enough, because they've only played twice. So the 1941 NFL West Division Championship went to the Chicago Bears in a 33-14 victory for Chicago, and then they would win the NFL Championship, beating the New York Giants 37-9. The only other playoff matchup in series history was the one that everyone knows about, the 2010 NFC Championship game, or 2011 technically, but the 2010 season. That's how I always do it. I always label it and talk about things as the season that they were played in, because the playoffs are played in the year following when the season starts, but I always associate it with, like I associate the Eagles last year winning the 2024 NFL Championship, or the Super Bowl in 2024. I look at the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl and their repeat years as 2023 and 2022, not 2023 and 2024. Because those technically were the years that they won it, but it was the 2022 and 23 seasons. So, anyways, 2010 NFC Championship game. Jay Cutler gets hurt in that game. Bears lose by 7. Aaron Rodgers wins his lone Super Bowl with the Packers. All right. It is what it is. Is what it is, man. No, oh, damn. I was making a post on my community. Can I edit this? Because I put week 12. I copied the description of the last one, and I totally didn't change the number of the week. All right, we're good. This thing is crazy. The way that this has played out is definitely interesting. It's definitely, look, it's just the way that it is. And I went into this week kind of expecting this to be the case. It's kind of looked like what the matchup's gonna be. Oh my god, it looked like this was going to be the matchup all the way back in like week 13. It was just these two teams were kind of tied at the hip, and then they played in week 14, and then the Packers took the division title, took the division lead. The Bears fell to the 7th seed, and instead of it being Bears-Packers at Soldier Field, it was going to be Bears-Packers at Lambeau. Then that flops over again, and then we're talking about Bears-Packers in Soldier Field, and then the Bears beat the Packers in Soldier Field, and that kind of further cements that. It's all about the Bears want to win the division, and the Packers cement themselves as the 7th seed. After that, they've lost 4 in a row. The Bears have now lost 2 in a row since the two teams have been on a crash course. It'll be the 3rd time that these teams play in about a month. My goodness. We'll have to wait and see when the game is going to be. It's going to be pending the result of the Sunday night game here, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, which will get underway in about a half hour. But after that game's over, they'll come out with a wild card schedule, and we get to see when the Bears play. They're most likely. This is what it's been with the new format, and how many games during wild card weekend aren't done by Fox and CBS. It does feel like we are headed to. Fox and CBS has been getting the 2-7 games. And I'm not gonna lie, that looks kind of where we're headed. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears and the Packers end up playing in the Sunday afternoon window on Fox. But I also wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those 2-7 games that goes to a different network, Prime Video, NBC, or ESPN. So I wouldn't be surprised anyway. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, I went today fully expecting this to be the case, since these two teams have kind of been tied at the hip all, in this sense, for the last month plus, pretty much since Thanksgiving. But we're here now. I've kind of mentally prepared myself for this being the outcome. Whether I wanted this to happen or not, I went in today like, look, whatever happens, happens. If they have to play Green Bay, they have to play Green Bay. If they have to play San Francisco, they have to play San Francisco. If they have to play the Rams somehow, they have to play the Rams. Bottom line is, they are going to be at Soldier Field. They are going to have the Bears faithful involved and excited. And you have an opportunity to get your first playoff win since the week before the last time the Bears and the Packers played in the playoffs. I am only nervous about this game next week for the sole reason because the Bears looked awful for 3 quarters in this game. They looked terrible for 3 quarters. Uninspired. Didn't seem like they were giving it their all. And I don't know how to process that. Because while you can definitely sit there and I would like to think, and I hope that this is the case, that they weren't giving it their all because they know that they can't get hurt for next week's game. And that they also were not trying to put anything new on film. I hope that it was a strategic move to do whatever to try and, not lose this game, but not really give anything away as we go towards the playoffs. It kind of like not necessarily focus only on the playoffs, but, I hope that the first three quarters in this one are not an indication of how the Bears are going to start out next week against Green Bay. Because if there's one thing that this Bears team has done over the last month is start out very slow. They have taken a second to really get off and running. The only reason why they weren't trailing in the Cleveland game at the start was because Cleveland was also equally as incompetent. They took multi-score deficits to the Packers both times they played early. Not in the second game, but they did take, a multi-score deficit in both games. They didn't take a multi-score deficit against the Niners, which that's nice. They kept pace with them. But they took a multi-score deficit here against the Lions early, and it's just the team has struggled to find ways to get off to fast starts, especially offensively and defensively as well. The defense woke up a little bit in the second half of that game today, but at the same time, I need to see something more out of that defense next week. Because, oh my gosh, they're going to get absolutely cooked by Christian Watson and Jaden Reed next week if they cannot figure out how to defend the slot. Man. If they cannot find a way to cover a guy man in the slot. Because that is exactly how you beat this Bears defense. It is not hard. There is a very clear blueprint to beat this Bears defense. And that's what gets me nervous more than anything. The offense really sputtered for some major portions of this game. The thing is, they find a way to wake up and look like a competent unit for at least a good portion of the game. And if it's only in the fourth quarter, it's only in the fourth quarter. Sure. But if the defense is able to keep you in it enough to the point where you can realistically make a comeback like they did in this game to tie it up somehow, it's different, right? I don't know. The Red Sox had a season like this where they got a surprise playoff appearance, but the moral victory that would have been there with a loss still is totally gone due to the rival matchup. Yeah. It is, I wouldn't say the Bears are limping into the playoffs. I don't think that this is, anything like the alarm bells. This team is going to get crushed in the first round. It's more all right, there is definitely a ceiling with this team. And while they definitely could win a playoff game, I don't know if they win two, right? That to me is where it becomes difficult. I'm like, if they win a playoff game, this season is considered a massive success, especially if they beating Green Bay in the process. And that's what gets me so nervous about this game specifically. It's not necessarily about losing to Green Bay. It's the ramifications of the perspective of this Bears team. Number 2 seed, all these thrilling wins late in games, and having some of their best moments as a team since 2018. Coming back against the Packers like they did and winning in the way that they did. Finding a way to beat Philadelphia in Philadelphia to really, make a statement to the league. Going toe-to-toe with San Francisco was a really fun game, even though, they lost. They still had the division locked up. It didn't feel as stressful as it would have had the Packers had won the day before against the Ravens. And, set up this Week 18 showdown where the Bears would have to win, and the Packers would have to win, and the Bears would have to lose for them to win the division. So, we get to this situation where if this team loses to Green Bay in the playoffs, for them to do all this wonderful stuff with the cardiac-like nature of this team, finding ways to win when trailing in the final 2 minutes on a consistent basis, finding ways to win one-score games, getting by and progressing as a team as the year has gone on, to lose and get upset as a number 2 seed would be brutal. And to lose to Green Bay again would be brutal. It would be the biggest gut punch that could possibly happen for this, great year. And a return to relevance in what you hope is the beginning of a contending window. And the start of something special, of a prolonged period of success. So, I don't know, man. It gets me really nervous to think about. I don't know. It is less of the I don't have faith in this Bears team to win. It's more that historically, this is a game they're going to lose. Right? With what these two franchises have done since their last playoff matchup, it again just feels like the eternal boogeyman that they'll never, overcome. Though they definitely did overcome them this year. That's the counterpoint. They did overcome them this year. They were down late and found a way to win. Late, again, they found a way, in a miraculous way, to come back and win that game. And that was pretty much for the division. That was pretty much for the division. No, it was. It was. So I don't know. They'll have to go up against Jeff Hafley's defense without Micah Parsons. They will be going against a fully healthy Jordan Love, you'd think. Coming out of concussion protocol. He hasn't played since getting hurt against the Bears 2 weeks ago. So, he's going to be going in cold turkey. And you hope that you can shake that team early and get a lead. And that's the thing that scares me the most is, in both games that the Bears have played against the Packers, they've gotten off to really, really slow starts. They've looked awful in both first halves. And to a larger degree, the Bears looked awful in the third quarter against the Packers. They just didn't look good. So you kind of sit there and want to see them kind of find a way to come through. But it's like there's the nervousness and the prospective crushing defeat that would be versus the joyous victory that would also be if that is the case. So, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Like, you get the biggest win as a franchise in a decade and a half, or you suffer potentially the most brutal defeat in the last 15 years, since the last time these teams met in the playoffs. That's what this feels like, right? It's not 2013 where the division is on the line and it's pretty much a play-in game, a playoff game to decide who wins the division and goes to January. Everything to win and everything to lose. From an outsider perspective, you could totally see this as like the Bears should win this game. The Packers are kind of playing with house money, if they lose, they were expected to lose. If they win, then they get to move on and everything. But going forward, if you look at it from a perspective of someone like me who's been a Bears fan for a majority of the portion in between these playoff games, because I didn't start following the team till about 2013. The first game I can fully remember and recall was that playoff game of that pretty much playoff game, week 17 that year, where the Packers knocked us out to win the NFC North. 4th and 8, Randall Cobb, Chris Conte, blown coverage, all that wonderful stuff. That was the first memory that I have. If I go back long enough, right? I don't remember too much from that 2013 season. I really don't. But I know that was the first year I started following the team a little bit. And my interest in the team only grew as I watched more and more. I had my phase in middle school, the typical young kid, tweenager to teenager who just, it doesn't matter about how it happens, a win or a loss, you're just either overjoyed or you're frustrated. And, I had plenty of crash outs in middle school, and, and that carried into carried into high school a little bit. I mean, I've had my fair share of crash outs in college. That was, and the thing is, the difference is that was documented here. It genuinely feels like I've been a fan long enough where the crash out wouldn't really happen in this situation. It would just be the typical sit and stare into the emptiness and into the void for the next 3 hours and just crushed, as opposed to throwing things, wanting to punch a hole in the wall, yelling, screaming, taking it out on others. It would just be sitting there and trying to process it all. It's going to be the most stressful Bears game, of my life. When we went into the 2018 wild card game, I thought the Bears were playing with house money. They had a great year. Philly was just coming off a Super Bowl championship. There was a lot that they had. There was a lot of pressure, not necessarily a lot of pressure on them, but, they had been there before. They had the experience. I was like, look, if the Bears lose this game, they lose. And then they lost in the most brutal way possible. Needing to stop a 4th down and goal from the 1, can't do it. And then Mitch Trubisky leads you down the field, and you get into field goal range, and the double doink. And what's funny is that loss becomes that much more brutal, considering what happened afterwards, right? What happened after that game in the years following, where the team just hasn't recovered, and they stooped down to a really low, which awarded them the first overall pick, and then has led them to this moment, right? So we're kind of at a crossroads here, in my opinion. I think that this game is going to say a lot of how this team is going to play going forward. Because regardless of what happens next week, this game proves to me, and it makes it very evident, that this defense is not good. It is not good. They are great at one thing. Or they're great at two things. The Bears defense is good at two things. Taking the ball away and holding teams to field goals in the red zone. That's it. They allow so much chunk yardage. It is ridiculous. There is a very clear formula to how to beat this Bears defense, and teams have been doing it for a couple weeks now. Find a way to get 3 or 4 yards on first down, whether that be a straight ahead carry, which honestly, running up the middle against the Bears run defense usually works out because the Bears run defense is not very good, or try and swing it out to outside and break up field. You get 3 or 4 yards on first down. And you do the same thing. If you do that, you can do the same thing on second down. You get the first down, you don't. you get the first down. If you don't, it's probably going to be 3rd down and 3 at longest, 1, 2, or 3, and all of a sudden, then you do the exact same thing or try and pull like a QB sneak. You know, it makes that 3rd down conversion so easy. And even if you don't get it, you can go for it on 4th down because you know the Bears defense isn't going to make the stop. If you're not in the red zone, they're not going to make the stop. That's the most frustrating part. You get to 3rd down and 1, and you feel like you know that they're not going to stop it, and then they stop it, and you're like, oh, that's great. Here comes the punt team, and then you realize, oh yeah, they're going to go for it. And then you're like, they're not going to stop it. And they don't stop it. So, that's kind of how you beat this Bears defense. And here's the thing. If you don't have a great first down play, you get only 1 yard on a rush, or you throw an incompletion or something, all you got to do is find a way to get 7-8 yards on 2nd down. Quick slant, quick out. Make the Bears, find someone open and make the Bears make an immediate tackle, which they'll do sometimes. If you break away and pick up the first. If they tackle you, we're back in the exact same scenario, 3rd and short. And then, you repeat the same scenario. It's just agonizing to watch this Bears defense play football right now because in the last couple weeks, teams are less and less and less going to be, taking shots down the field. They are going to be dinking and dunking their way past this Bears defense, doing what the Lions did exactly in this game, chewing up a shit ton of clock, get to 3rd down over and over again. Bears defense can't stop 3rd down. All of a sudden, you continue to move the ball down the field and you eat up shit tons of clock, score points, even if you only kick field goals. And that's how you beat this Bears defense. You beat the Bears by not letting their offense touch the ball, which is the ironic part, which is very ironic considering the history of this franchise being very defensively focused and run heavy. So to know that you're talking about being able to keep the ball out of the hands of the Bears offense and then just kill the clock. Like, it's just, that is very simple. That is very simple. It is how you beat this Bears team. Keep the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands. Because if you hold on to the ball for 35 minutes, that's how you win. Because the Bears they've struggled to start games the last month. So if you don't let them ever find a rhythm, it's wraps. So that's why I really am thinking like the tone of their game next week ends up riding on how those first 2 drives go. If the Bears defense is able to hold the Packers scoreless, and not just hold the Packers scoreless like they did 2 weeks ago in Soldier Field where they held them in the red zone on a failed 4th down conversion. I'm talking if they can keep the Packers on their own half of the field and force them to punt, I think that's a massive win because the Bears defense has not done that very often the last 3 games. And then if the offense can score points on their first drive, I would love a touchdown, but with the way that they've played right now, it's been a couple 3-and-outs. Maybe they're getting 1 or 2 first downs, but they have not threatened. If they get into the red zone, I want to see them score a touchdown, but if you get into field goal range, kick the damn field goal. Because, holy cow, you need points on your first drive. And that is what I think should be the case. So, yeah. I don't know. You watch this team, and you're like, they lost by 3 points, but it did not feel like that. It felt like they got run all over. But the defense did enough to buy this group enough time to wake up offensively. And Caleb Williams leads 2 touchdown drives in the 4th quarter, of course, right? They wake up in the 4th quarter, as they have all year, lead 2 touchdown drives, and get the 2-point conversion on both attempts, too, which I think is something that has to be said. I will give them a lot of credit. 2 2-point conversions in a row, with them only converting 1 2-point conversion all year up to this point. I will absolutely take that. They did it in a run and in the past too. So it was like that was the one thing I was very, uplifted by, because the offense couldn't do anything for 3 quarters, and then when they woke up in the fourth quarter, they were efficient. So it's just, can they get to that flow and that rhythm earlier in the game and not wait till the fourth quarter to get to that point? Because this offense is very talented and can score a lot of points. Look what they did last week against the San Francisco defense. San Francisco's defense is definitely hurt without Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, and they're not too great, but hanging with the Niners like they did was very nice. The Seahawks only scored 13 points this week against that same Niners defense. The Bears scored 38. They need to channel that more than they channel this one. And that's going to be hard to do against a Hafley defense. Even though they're injured, they have a good defensive coordinator. Jeff Hafley has been doing a very good job this year. Vikings scored 16 points today, but it doesn't give me a ton because J.J. McCarthy was playing for a little bit, and then he went out, and Max Brosmer came in, and, it wasn't much. Don't get a ton of reads on how the Packers are going to do offensively because they sat everyone. This wasn't last year when they sat starters against the Bears, a.k.a. they only sat Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs after Christian Watson got hurt, and then Jordan Love almost nearly had his season ended the very next play. So it's like, it's different. They started a third-string quarterback and basically didn't play any starters. So we'll see, how the Packers come out offensively and defensively, frankly. We'll see how they start next week, considering that no one played here, and they kind of gave them a bye week. There's a lot riding on the game for Green Bay as well, because, the fact that there are even conversations about Matt LaFleur being fired drives me up a wall. And this is as a Bears fan, because I'm like, dude, have you seen this team? I know that they're the 7th seed for the 3rd straight year. But look at what this team continues to do. They are competitive every year. They find ways to make the playoffs every year. I don't see it. I don't see the reason why you want to fire Matt LaFleur. He has done a very good job, especially against this division and your biggest rival in the Bears. Now, I know that's some Packer fans hate the Vikings more, but, I digress. It's just, I don't understand why you fire Matt LaFleur. I don't understand. It's not like it's been a massive issue, right? I can see why people want Mike Tomlin fired in Pittsburgh, because they've made the playoffs like 8 of the last 10 years, and they've lost every playoff game. Yet he continues to win more games than he loses every year. So it's like, oh, we want to keep him around because he continues to win more games than he loses. We're fine losing in the first round of the playoffs. He's been around for a long time, and you can definitely tell that the team is not where they want to be, and you can tell that the team is not built for long-term success, and they're built to keep this record for Mike Tomlin going. With the Packers, they have a young core. They're like, Jordan Love's in his 6th year with Matt LaFleur. He hasn't had a second offensive coordinator or head coach. Or he's probably had a second offensive coordinator, but hasn't had to switch systems. That's more what I'm trying to say. Because Matt LaFleur runs his own system in Green Bay. It's the head coach's system, not the offensive coordinator system. So Jordan Love has been in that system for 6 years. You fire Matt LaFleur, you have no idea about whoever you're going to hire. Because I've heard maybe that it could be Kevin Stefanski. I don't think that'd be a bad hire, but is that connection with him and Jordan Love going to work out? Is Jordan Love going to regress if he's not in Matt LaFleur's system and has to change it up? What happens, if the Packers make a coaching change? That to me is where I'm like, that shakes things up a lot in the division. Like, the fact that there is a potential for Brian Flores to be out of Minnesota and going for another head coaching job, 1. 2, in a very rare case, in a very, small opportunity, Jeff Hafley leaves and goes for a head coaching job. And now the possibility of Matt LaFleur being fired. Like, that shakes up the NFC North big time, and all of a sudden, the Bears have the best situation in the division. Because they have the youngest head coach. They have the longest system there because Detroit lost both their coordinators last year. But Detroit also feels like they're in a pretty solid position. They just need to not, blow a couple games. They just need to not blow games against J.J. McCarthy, Max Brosmer. Who else did they lose to this year? Old Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, like, they need to not go to overtime against the Jameis Winston Giants. Like, the Lions, I don't think, are a bad football team. This is going to be the entire NFC North had a winning record this year. The Bears won a division where every team won more games than they lost. That is impressive. So I am just in a position where if that happens, that is like the best outcome possible for the Chicago Bears. Because now you're in the best situation. Your quarterback's going into year 3. So year 2 with the same coordinator. And in a year where Caleb Williams was this close to breaking the 4,000 mark for the first time in franchise history. And if the Bears didn't have nearly as many drops as they did this year, he would have hit it. Not even like half the drops. Like, he lost like 400 yards passing due to drops this year, which is kind of ridiculous. But, you're talking about this situation and a potential contending window for the Bears opening up here. If Brian Flores, Jeff Hafley, and Matt LaFleur all go and leave their teams. Now you're talking about are the Packers a sustainable team right now? Or are the Vikings, how are they going to respond with their defensive coordinator gone and now with a massive quarterback question? The storylines for the division that would come out if that was to happen would be insane. So there's my piece on the whole Matt LaFleur thing. I cannot believe we're even talking about this right now. It is too soon to be firing a head coach because he only got the 7th seed, in my opinion. I don't think the Packers are in a position to really do that. But who knows? Who knows what happens? If the Bears beat the Packers by like 3 scores and like run them out of Chicago, man, that would be crazy. I don't think that's going to happen just because of the fact that both... The only thing that's... I think maybe that's why that this game scares me so much sometimes. Like, thinking about it, like, scares me a little bit. It's just the fact that no matter how good or bad these two teams have been over the last 2 seasons, it has come down to the very last play. A blocked field goal and then a field goal for the Bears to win/lose their 2 games last year. And then a 4th and 1 in the red zone. Caleb Williams, ball in his hand, he throws a pick. Next game, he hits for a touchdown and then wins it in overtime with the game in his hands. It is very, very, very tight right now. And I think no matter what happens, who goes, who doesn't go, regardless of injuries, whatnot, it's going to be a tight game. So, I don't know, man. That's, I guess, what, scares me a little bit. Is just the fact that this game is most likely going to come down to the wire again. And I'm just concerned for my own sanity, my own mental state, my own anxiety, my own just the way that I process it all, like, it's just my heart, it's just all I want nothing more than that team to pull away and have this thing over with 5 minutes to go in the fourth. I'm not even asking for this thing to be over by the fourth quarter. I'm asking for this team to have the ball up 2 scores with 5 minutes to go. Up 10 points with 5 minutes left in the game. I would love for them to punch out the lights. That would be unreal. And that would be so satisfying. But it's going to be a massive chess match again. Dennis Allen versus Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur has won pretty much. The reason that the Bears were able to stay in their game 2 weeks ago was because the Packers offense went 0 for 5 in the red zone. If the Bears come close to that, 1 for 4 on letting the Packers score touchdowns in the red zone, I think that the Bears will be in a good position to win this thing. I would love the Bears to get at least one takeaway, because that seems to be like, if they don't get takeaways, they lose. And don't just lose, it looks rough while doing so. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just, there's a lot that scares me about it. Not necessarily because there is definitely a degree of who the opponent is, but just how tight these games are. And these games have been. Not only this year, but last year. The last time these two teams played a game that ended up finishing in 2 scores, was the first game of the 2023 season. I was just starting my senior year of college. Oh, man. It's most likely going to go down to the wire. And that is what makes me nervous. But at the same time, this team has come through in the clutch so many times this year. I feel pretty good about they could do it again. I don't know, maybe it's also just like, I have a feeling of like there's all this pressure to win this game, because oh my god, because now you're the 2 seed. If this was Bears Packers, or just even if the Bears were like a 6 or 7 seed and had gotten in the playoffs with either this same record or 10-7, I would be like, this team is playing with house money. If they lose by 1 score, hey, that's massive progress. They got to the playoffs this year. They won 11 games, or they won 10 games. They won a couple games late. They've done more than win a couple games late. They've won 6 games when trailing in the final 2 minutes this season. They have been living and dying by the 1-score game right now. And, with the way that they've now lost 2 games in a row, where it's come down to the last play, it's just... the last time this team... you disregard that game against Cleveland. The last time the Bears played a game that did not come down to pretty much the last possession or the last play was Week 8 against Baltimore. The last time the Bears won in this similar situation was Week 7. If you disregard that game against Cleveland. Like this, they are playing every single game down to the wire right now. And, again, part of me is like wondering, has the magic run out? I hope it hasn't. I hope they can find magic for one more game. If they get beat by 4 scores in the second round, in the divisional round, by Philadelphia or the Rams, whatever, like, I don't care. They won a playoff game. They beat the Packers while doing so. I'm content. Because obviously this team is at least a year away now. That defense right now is a talent problem. Dennis Allen's going to call better plays, but I think that he also lacks the talent. especially on the defensive line. They can't get any pressure to the quarterback. They sacked Goff, I think, twice in this game, which is, not bad. That's better than a lot of games this year. But, the amount of times on third down where they have guys playing in man coverage, the amount of times that C.J. Gardner-Johnson was getting beat one-on-one in man coverage by Amon-Ra St. Brown has me super nervous, because the Packers love to do the exact same thing, and they have two guys that can do it. Now, they're not as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown, but Jaden Reed and Christian Watson are both threats in the quick slant game. Christian Watson, that was how he scored a touchdown on the Bears this year. A quick slant that he burned C.J. Gardner-Johnson all the way for a touchdown. So that's the thing that's where, I can see the correlation right there. I just need to see something, and that's what frustrates me most about this game is I didn't see anything that shows me that this team can go out and comfortably win. They can totally win next week. I have full faith that they can totally win next week. But after the way that they played in this game, it does not inspire confidence. There isn't a lot that I can take away from this game and be like, yeah, they had a good recent performance that makes me feel pretty good about a playoff game the next week. It is very, very tough to go out and look at it like this. But that's just where we're at. I know this stream has been pretty much only talking about next week. But it's just this is what I'm thinking of. This is what's on my mind. I didn't necessarily care specifically about winning this game or not. It was more whether or not how they looked, because they did not look good in this game. We'll go through the box score a little bit. Something like this cannot happen against the Green Bay Packers. 11 for 139 on 15 targets. They were going to Amon-Ra St. Brown a ton. They were abusing him. So that's not good. No, it's not. And that makes me very nervous. Right? So, man. St. Brown just destroyed this team in this game. And it was all in the short passing game. Goff did not beat us through, deep passing. Their longest pass play was 30 yards, and I don't think that thing traveled more than 10 air yards. They were not stretching the field you'd think they would have. So that's what kind of gets you a little nervous. So, yeah, it's 331, a touchdown and a pick. Was sacked twice. Okay, so the Bears did get a third. Montgomery technically, took a sack. Okay, that was technically a sack for him. So what? Who got the sack there then? Oh, it was Billings. Andrew Billings sack? Good for him, because I'll tell you what, as much of a fan favorite Andrew Billings is, and how much I like to talk about Andrew Billings. He's one of my favorites on the team. He's not coming back next year. He has not had a great year, and he's definitely proven to be a bit of a liability. I was like, hey, keep him because he's a good run stopper, because he's just got a big body, a big frame, but he has definitely been pushed around quite a bit this year. So, yeah, it just... You see him out there trying to chase a quarterback down, and it's just he's not getting him. You just know it, because he's a better at the run stop. So maybe you keep him around for a backup role, but you go out and try and find someone on the defensive line, and that's where the talks of maybe potentially trading for Max Crosby or signing Max Crosby if he's a free agent. I forget exactly which is the case. Comes in a big hand. And of course you're going to draft, you should draft defensive line to start the year. But the run game was non-existent. They couldn't get the run established. And so, Ben Johnson marries the run in the pass very well. They couldn't get that going, so Caleb's got to throw a lot. Didn't have a great... That pick wasn't great, but 2 more touchdowns for Caleb Williams. I mean, it's... Say what you want. Hang on, where did it go? I had it. Hang on. Where did it go? Oh, man. He ends the season with 5 consecutive games throwing for multiple touchdown passes. What? Was there a single... There were only 2 games this year. Yeah, there were only 2 games this year where Caleb Williams did not throw a touchdown pass. And they were week 7 and 8 against the New Orleans Saints and the Baltimore Ravens. That was it. Caleb Williams threw at least 1 touchdown pass in the other 15 games this team played. Which is kind of ridiculous. So, it's just, I don't know, man. Initially, going into today, I was like, go out and beat them, and that makes me feel good about beating Green Bay next week. With how they looked in the first 3 quarters, I was just like, I kind of want Philly to win this thing. I kind of would rather, fall flat in the playoffs against San Francisco than possibly have the possibility of losing to Green Bay again, right? Like, it's all the possibility of having to, lose to them again. And this could all be for naught if they go out and just dominate from first kickoff to final whistle. They could very well do that. But there hasn't been a performance this year that really shows me that they can do that. And the only time that they've done that against a quality team has been against the Philadelphia Eagles, and they only won that game by 9 points. So it's kind of like, I want to see if this team dominates time of possession or plays like the better team for a half or 3 quarters to be up by more than 7 points. I want this team to be up by 14. I want this team to be in a position where if they look like the better team, they are winning. And not just winning, they are winning. So it's going to be a stressful game day, and that's what frustrates me the most about this game, is I know I'm going to be very frustrated and very stressful all game long. I don't know when the game's going to be played, but that's just going to be the case. And so, I was just checking on stream here. I was very happy with how Colston played. I know he had the drop on 4th down, which really stunk. But outside of that, he played very well. Was reliable in the 4th quarter. Couple big catches. Had a nice touchdown catch. Jade Walker caught a touchdown, his 2nd of the year. Good to see him get involved again. And it's like, it was Colston Loveland, and that was largely it. DJ Moore had just 1 catch. Again, was kind of a non-factor. DJ Moore caught that touchdown against Green Bay, and he's caught 2 passes since. So, I want to see him get involved, and, the idea of having Rome Odunze back helps a lot. And I think that that'll help spread the ball around a little more and give Caleb a lot more options. And I think that's also something I have to think about as well. It's like they're getting Rome back. And I know that he hasn't played in a month, but he hasn't played against the Packers all year. He could be a massive advantage for the Bears because the Packers don't have any tape, especially game-on-game tape. They don't have any of that this year with Rome Odunze. They don't have any tape since Week 13 against the Eagles. And it's like the only tape that they really have that they can go off of are those first handful of games to open the year where he caught 5 touchdowns in 4 weeks. Ugh. I want to see them get Rome Odunze involved real early in this game if he's able to. And, he's feeling 100%. He's all good to go. Get him the ball a little bit. See if they can catch this Packers defense off guard with the guy who hasn't played in a while and yet is incredibly lethal and threatening. And it's like they also didn't play with Luther Burden last time. I forgot about that. They didn't even play with Luther Burden. It was DJ Moore, Colston Loveland, Jade Walker, Olamide Zaccheaus, and Cole Kmet. I want to see this team get Luther and Rome attention early Probably because DJ Moore, again, is going to be hounded by their top corners, whether that be Keyshawn Nixon or Corey Valentine, maybe even Trayvon Diggs. But Trayvon Diggs has been burnt toast this year. The touchdown Roma Dunze had against the Cowboys, where he's just like wide open, that was against Trayvon Diggs. I think Roma Dunze, if they get a matchup against Trayvon Diggs, I think they're looking his way. I want nothing more than the Bears to absolutely kick the Packers' teeth in and not give them a chance. I want to see them score 2 touchdowns to open the game. I don't know the last time a Bears team has done that. The Bears have scored a couple opening drive touchdowns this year. It's been great. They've had super slow starts as of late. If they go out and score a touchdown on their opening drive, I'm going to feel great. If they score 2 touchdowns on their first 2 drives, I'm going to feel over the moon. Bears should gun for dominating the time of possession battle and making sure that when they have the ball, they're making it count. It is such a chess match. Ben Johnson versus Jeff Hafley, Matt LaFleur versus Dennis Allen. The weakest unit on the field is the Bears defense. That cannot be understated. It is, can the Packers really take advantage? I need this Bears team as well to be on their best behavior. Do not take any silly penalties. I need them to also play the deep ball well while also guarding the slant ball. It's very hard to do, but I need them to be guarding the slant ball well. And I also need them to avoid the BS 40-yard bomb where Jordan Love's throwing off his back foot and it's just hanging in the air for 6 seconds before it gets to the receiver, who has to stop for a second to get the ball, but he's so wide open that he still catches it anyways. Either that, or if it is good coverage, don't foul. The Bears didn't have a ton of penalties in this game. I'll give them that. I'll give them credit there. They were not penalty happy. They had, I think, 2 false start penalties. Or no, 2 offsides penalties from Andrew Billings, which frustrated me quite a bit. But at the same time, it was a false start on DJ Moore as well. I think those are the only penalties in the game for the Bears. Let me see. They had a 4th. Was it holding? I don't even know what the 4th was, but regardless, it was pretty clean. They weren't doing anything after the play or during the play that was getting them flagged. And I was very, very happy about that. They got to clean up the pre-snap. Look, we're coming to the end of this season. If they're able to get a postseason win here, I'm going to be considering this as one of the best seasons in my lifetime. It'll be the best Bears season of my lifetime, obviously, considering the fact that this would be the first Bears playoff win I will witness. But just as well, doing all this while the defense has very rarely been fully healthy, and even then it's they've been dealing with injury problems all year to several different guys defensively. It hasn't been a compounding thing, but we started the year without Kyler Gordon, Jalen Johnson, and TJ Edwards, and they were able to hold down the fort enough for TJ and Kyler to come back after the bye week, even though Kyler Gordon went out pretty much almost immediately after, of course. TJ has stayed in for the most part. He went on IR for a little bit. Tremaine has gone on IR. Jalen Johnson went on IR. He came back in Thanksgiving. Kyler Gordon came off of IR, played 1 game, and then re-injured whatever it was during warm-ups against Green Bay. Roma Dunze got hurt. They have had several... They haven't had a ton of guys be out at the same time very much this year, but it always feels like someone is hurt on this Bears team, and it feels like going into the playoffs, they'll probably be in the best position they are all year. Rome, Luther, DJ, Colston, Cole, all available, plus DeAndre and Kyle, all available. And then you have the potential threat of a guy like Jade Walker, Olamide Zaccheaus maybe having a big catch or two. And then you have Caleb's ability to scramble. The offense has plenty of options. Defensively, they are going to be healthy, you would think. Kyler Gordon's really the biggest miss here. But, Jalen Johnson, Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Kevin Byard, they're all healthy. Montez Sweat, they're all healthy. And they're all going to play. So you would hope that Jalen Johnson's able to do enough defensively and lock up their top receiver, whoever it is on any given play. And maybe that's one of the, and that honestly is one of the strengths for Green Bay. That, not necessarily that it's less of like, we don't have a true wide receiver one. It's more that they have a lot of guys that they can turn to be the guy on each individual play. So it's the fact that they have several options kind of plays to their advantage, knowing that they don't have to, it's like, we have Justin Jefferson on our team. He's going to be going up against their top corner. If their top corner's great, he's probably not getting the ball much. But, it's like, we know where Jalen Johnson will be playing, their top receiver, which is, going to be a challenge. So, I don't know, man. That's just how I'm feeling about a lot of this. I don't feel super. What day do I think that they play? I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking. Hang on. Let me look at the wild card schedule here. So it is going to be Bears, Packers, Eagles, Niners, Panthers, Rams. And then Patriots, Chargers, Jaguars, Bills, and then winner of the Sunday night game tonight against Houston. Honestly, I don't think the Bears, I'm looking at the schedule now again. I don't think the Bears are going to be the Sunday afternoon on Fox. I don't think that's going to be the case. It just feels like that could be a Rams-Panthers game. It feels like that might be what they get. Because I feel like some other network is going to want Bears-Packers. Whether it be ESPN, Prime, or NBC. Well, here's an article I just saw. Eagles-Niners will be the Sunday night game. That wouldn't surprise me. But let's see. Actually, you know what? Let's look at this together. From The Spun by Athlon Sports by Andrew Holleran. Came out literally 8:04. So, yeah, about an hour ago. The early afternoon. Yeah, the early afternoon's probably going to be the Texans. I think that the early Saturday game, the first game, will either be Houston and the AFC North winner or Chargers-Patriots. I think it's going to be one of those two games. Patriots-Chargers for the night game. I don't hate that. Yeah. This probably seems like what's going to happen. I'm not going to lie. Though, I wouldn't be surprised if we get something different. The problem is, the ESPN has been doing a 4 versus 5 matchup pretty much yearly since they've started doing the playoffs again. They did the Vikings and Rams last year. They did Eagles, Bucks the year before. They did Cowboys, Bucks the year before that. And then Cardinals, Rams the year before that. It really does feel like they're going to get the 4-5 in the NFC. That's what they like, and that's what they're going to go with. Though I also wouldn't be surprised if they go for the 4-5 in the AFC. I think that Niners-Eagles is screaming Sunday night. that feels like what they're going to do and what they're going to go with. Oh, I should probably... Yep. But, you know, it all comes up to... You know, it's different. It doesn't feel as cut in stone as it has before. Because, honestly, Buffalo and Jacksonville, not massive markets. It could just be like, we want these other teams because they're bigger markets. And they're better. You know, there's great story with Drake May. They get Justin Herbert, and it's like, okay, we got Aaron Rodgers in his 42-year-old season, or we get the Ravens, who have been a really good AFC team. I think if it's the Ravens, I think that there's a very likely chance that there is Houston-Baltimore week to start the playoffs. Yeah, Saturday's usually been 2 AFC games. That's the thing. So they probably get the Sunday game. Hang on, guys. We back? We good? Come on, come on. Go back up. Go back up. Go back up. Sorry, guys. There we go. All right. We had a moment there. We're good. Yeah, I think it's probably going to... Do I want the Bears not to be the Fox game and want to see them probably on like Prime or... Actually, I don't want to see them on Prime. The last thing I want is to see the old husk of Al Michaels call that game. Back-to-backs in the NHL make no sense. The thing that irks me the most about that, and specifically, I don't think back-to-backs are that bad. Road and home back-to-backs suck a lot, but what sucks more is playing 3 games in 4 days. I think that's arguably worse, and that's how guys get hurt. Yeah. Anyways, I don't know. It's probably going to be either the 2-7 in the AFC and the 4-5 in the AFC on Saturday, these 3-6, and then the other AFC game the early window on Sunday. Probably Bears Packers Sunday afternoon, Niners Eagles Sunday night, and they're probably going to go 4-5 Panthers Rams Monday. That's probably what's going to happen. But I'd like them to try something different. I'd like it to be unpredictable, because it's kind of been pretty predictable over the last little bit. I'd like it to be a little bit more unpredictable. And honestly, I kind of like for Fox to be the network that does 2 games. You know, I'd like that because CBS did 2 games last year. Because NBC only got 1 game last year instead of 2. I think they only get 1 again this year. So I'd like to see them get, you know, that again. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Oh, man. This week is going to be really stressful. It's going to be really stressful. Really, really hard to get through. I'm going to be constantly thinking about this thing, man. It's the first Bears playoff game that I think really matters since the 2018 season, because I know the Bears made it in 2020, but they didn't limp into the playoffs. They had a very bad middle section of that season, and they kind of saved their season in the last couple weeks. But I'd like, you know, they were the 7th seed. They were going up against a New Orleans team that they were projected to lose by. It was like, I don't know. If you go out and win that game, it's great. If you don't, you know, it was like they were playing with house money. You know, it was like, kind of almost like we weren't that good that year. It didn't feel like they were going to win that game, and they didn't. Anyways, I just also want to see this team score more than one freaking touchdown. Like, oh my God. I've seen 2 Bears playoff games, and they have scored 1 touchdown in each. I am very happy that the 1 touchdown and the most meaningful touchdown that was scored was from Mitch Trubisky to Allen Robinson, the 2 jerseys that me and my brother wore. I have a Robinson jersey still. My brother still has a Trubisky jersey, which, by the way, shout out Mitch Trubisky for a 4 touchdown day today. Let's go. He still got it in 2025. I know it was against the Jets, but hey, 4 touchdowns is 4 touchdowns. Yeah. You think the Bears will be favored against Green Bay? The last time I saw like people talking about odds, like yeah, the drive from Mitch gets ignored. Like Mitch led them down the field. That throw to Robinson right before the kick was like great. He led that drive. That was going to be a game-winning playoff drive. And I fully believe as well, if that kick goes through, they beat the Rams the next week in LA. I am fully confident that they would have won that game in LA the next week because they already had beaten the Rams that season and, you know, played so well defensively. I felt like that was going to be the case. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, going back to it. I think the last time that I saw some people talk about odds, it didn't matter who the Bears faced between the 3 teams they could have faced after their games today. Like, I think I saw they were favored in any of them. Like, they weren't favored at all, which I think is really, really sad. Which, you know, proves that no one believes in this team to actually win it. Like, it just, no one does it. Yeah. I don't know. If anyone's got any more questions about this game or next week's game against Green Bay, let me know. The one thing I will touch on, like, Caleb Williams gets the record. That's it. That's the record. Most passing yards in a season in Bears history. He finishes 58 yards short of 4,000, which probably would have gotten if, like, 3 passes weren't dropped. Like, there are probably 3 passes out there that amount to 58 yards that were dropped this season. So, you know, you can say if. He didn't do it. Simple as that. So, I think that he'll probably have a good shot to get it next year. He finishes with 3,942 yards, 58.1 completion percentage. Got to get that up next year. 27 touchdowns and 7 picks is not bad. It's not bad. He only took 24 sacks. He took 68 last year. That's huge. So, you know, So I think that, yeah. Yeah, you've won 4 more games twice this season. You got to do it a 3rd time if you want a Super Bowl. That's right. They've already done it. They've gone and won 4 games in a row, and they've won 5 games in a row. They're going to have to win 4 in a row. Thank goodness they get 2 at home. That's what I guess the benefit is. It's like, yeah, they got to play the Packers, but if they win that game, they are guaranteed a second home game in the playoffs. Guaranteed a second one. Let me see. When was the last time the Bears won a wild card game? Because they've had... Because those last couple playoff wins were in divisional round because they had gotten first round buys. Let's see. 2010, they beat the Seahawks as a 2 seed. 2006, they had won 2 games, but both at home. But they got a bye, so they didn't get that. Let's see. You got to go back to 1994. 30 years ago was the last time the Bears won a wild card game, and that was on the road against the Minnesota Vikings, 35-18, the year before Eric Kramer set what was the all-time passing record for the Bears. The Bears have not won. They've won 2 wild card games in franchise history because they just have not played a lot of wild card games. Like, that's the thing. When the Bears make the playoffs, they're not sneaking in for the most part. They are solidly in the playoffs. They're either good or they're bad. Like, it's just, they're either a top 3 seed in the NFC or they're not making the playoffs at all. Like, that's the weird thing. So, you know, we're kind of here in this situation. They've got the number 2 seed. They've got a chance. Welcoming the Green Bay Packers to town. Oh boy. I want nothing more than this team to win. And for the game next week, you need to be ready to go right away. Yeah. No, you got to score next week. Yeah, you cannot start off slow. You're absolutely right, Vinny. You cannot start slow again. That's the thing that worries me. That was why I was I'm like kind of nervous. Because this performance today was very uninspiring. Either there is Ben Johnson is playing chess, not checkers, and trying not to give anything away and play a vanilla game and see if they win, blah, blah, blah. There definitely can be like a chance that happens. But like at the same time, I don't know, man. I don't know. You have to start faster. We cannot see them go 3 and out and only pick up 2 first downs on their first 2 drives. We cannot see that happen. They have to at least you cannot have a power outage. That's a good way to put it. You cannot have a power outage. You can't just sputter to start the game and take a second to like fully turn on and have everything click. You need to find a way to click and beat the brakes off of them early. You cannot let them jump out to a lead. Because this is now, if the Packers got out to another lead like that, it'd be the 3rd time this season the Bears start off sluggish against the Packers and are able to, they have to wake up in the second half. It's like they need to find a way to play better in the first half. They need to find a way to not have to play catch up all game long. The Bears have not had a lead at all this series. They have not had the lead. They won a game, but they did not lead. They did not lead in either of the 2 games in the regular season. They won a game in overtime. That was the only time they had to lead in that game. They need to finally go out and score early. And defense, yeah, you're right. Defense is going to have to force punts. Their performance over the last 3 weeks has been putrid. And it's kind of funny because they've held in 2 of those games, they've held the opponent to under 20 points. The Lions scored 19 today. The Packers scored 16 2 weeks ago. The problem is the Niners scored 42. The Niners scored 42 against them. It is going to be on this defense to have their best game of the season. Because offenses can get you in the playoffs and make you look pretty, can help you determine playoff seeding. But in the playoffs, it's truly the defense that helps you win playoff games. I need to see this defense make a couple stops in the first half. And I mean punts. I'm not talking about what they did in that game in Chicago where it's like the Packers went 0 for 5 in the red zone when scoring touchdowns. But, when you go 0 for 5, that still means you got to the red zone 5 times. They still got to the red zone 5 times. So it's like, I need to see them find a way to keep the Packers out of field goal range early. The only way I'll accept that is if it's like out of the red zone. They need to keep them out of the red zone. It's the chunk plays and the dinking and dunking that goes for 20 yards because the defense lets guys get open right off the line of scrimmage that beats them. So it's just, if the defense can get a stop, get a sack early maybe, or force the other team behind the sticks, maybe they'll have a fighting chance. They'll have a good chance to win. Like, I mean, it really rides on how that game opens. Guys are going to have to make big tackles. Agreed. The Packers missed like no tackles at all in their game 2 weeks ago. The Packers did not miss tackles. The Bears missed plenty of tackles. And that's why the Packers were in really good third down situations. That's why they were in third and short a lot. It's why even when they failed third down and short, they could still go for it on fourth down and feel confident that they were going to get it. And that, to me, is the biggest concern that I have. And that's what this Bears defense needs to do. They need to force them into more third and long scenarios. And when they do, they can't make it fourth and short. They have to make the Packers punt. Like, I'm tired of them having to make stands on fourth down or force field goals. I want to see them punt. I want to see them force punts. Because it's just been uninspiring. While the Packers went 0 for 5 in the red zone, the Niners went 5 for 5 in the red zone. Like, I don't know, man. It is going to take a lot, I think, for this Bears defense to play a good game. Every single guy on that team is going to have to be on their best game. I think the defense is going to have to, Yeah, agreed. But, like, Andrew Billings cannot, do that again. Like, as much as I love Andrew Billings, he's kind of a little bit of a meme. He's a total, he's just funny. And it's funny because he got a sack today on David Montgomery, trick play. They gave him the sack. But, he is definitely a liability. And he's probably not going to be on the team next year, unfortunately. But, yeah, Andrew Billings, got to step up. Make a couple nice tackles on the run defense or slow him down so you can have other guys take him down. If CJ, GJ, and Nashawn Wright play more conservatively, they'll avoid buying on the quick routes of wide receivers like St. Brown not playing up too far up. That's the problem. CJ Gardner-Johnson was burnt toast in this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown was cooking him in the short slant game. And it gets me real nervous because the Packers have guys that can do that too. That's how Christian Watson scored a touchdown against us. That's how Jaden Reed that's his specialty. He's much more shifty and he's much quicker on his feet. He doesn't get a ton of deep bombs. That's Christian Watson's thing. Jaden Reed catches a lot more slant passes or intermediate passes. I really do feel like the Packers are going to absolutely destroy this team in the slant game. There's a very clear way on how to beat this Bears team. And it's not by throwing the deep ball. It is by running the football on first down, getting 3 or 4 yards. If you do that, run the ball again on second and down and get another 3 or 4 yards. And on third down, find a way to get the first down and make it an easy conversion. And if you're on the right spot of the field, do it again on fourth down. And guess what? If you don't go on first down, go ahead and pick up 6 or 7 yards. We're not taking that into 2026. Trust me. And then make it as third manageable. The Bears have to make sure they're putting the Packers in third and long scenarios. Third and intermediate, third and long scenarios. Because even on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, the Packers are running a 6-yard completion. They are running short completions so that they can make sure that, hey, if they break a tackle or outrun the guy, they got a first down. But if not, they are going to turn it into 4th and 2. Exactly. 3rd and 15 cannot become 4th and 2. Because in this day and age, 4th and 2, especially with Matt LaFleur against divisional opponents, is go for it territory. And I know Matt LaFleur on that first possession is going to go for it in a short, 4th and short scenario. It is going to be a very stressful game. It is going to be a very, very stressful game. That is just how it's going to be. And if this defense cannot let the Packers dominate time of possession, walk all over them, hold on to the ball for 7 minutes of drive, then they've got a much better shot to win this game. And if they do, because they're not going to win like they did 2 weeks ago again. That is just not going to happen. That win happens once in a blue moon. When Mitch Trubisky threw that touchdown versus the Eagles, I thought that was the game. Really? I felt pretty good after that, but I'm very nervous. I'm very nervous about this, man. Some goldfish. Oh, yeah. Not getting the 2-pointer was brutal. Yeah, you're right. The momentum was really not on one team's side, but I know why they went for 2 to go up, to go up 7 points. Or was it was to go up 8, I think. Like, the last time the Bears won a multi-score game, last time they beat the Packers by multiple scores, December 23rd, 2007, when they won 35-7 over Green Bay at home. Oh, yeah. Matt LaFleur's going to have his team ready. He sat his team this week. He sat his team to get ready. The Bears did not, and they did not look super inspiring. So who do you think has the upper hand? Probably Matt LaFleur. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Highest average time to throw the season. Pressure rate under 30%. Yep. That is how this Bears defense gets beat. Because I trust the guys in the secondary. Like, I trust Kevin Byard. I trust Jalen Johnson. I trust Kyler Gordon when he plays. Like, I trust this secondary to hold for like 2-3 seconds. But when the quarterback has 5 to 6 seconds to throw, it's just very hard as a secondary unit to contain NFL level wide receivers for that long. It's very hard. The more pressure that you get to the quarterback, the more that your secondary can control the game. The more that your defense can control the game. Because the Bears' defensive line stinks and is their worst position group, their defense is consistently giving up long plays and big chunk plays. Like, seriously. No, their defensive line stinks. What they need to do is find a way to get a free agent. If Max Crosby is available, is he a free agent this year? Or is he just wanting out of Vegas? Okay, no, he is. Okay, he would be a trade. It would be a trade that they'd have to deal, right? Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, he signed a 3-year deal this season. Okay. But like, yeah, if the Bears want to trade him for him, like, I don't know who you give up. I know a lot of people are saying DJ Moore. I don't know if you give away DJ Moore, man. I don't know. That guy's under contract. He's like, I don't know. Comes really tough. I'd love to see who is NFL free agents this year. I want to see who. Let's see. Perfect. Oh. All right. Montez Sweat has played pretty well this year. He definitely needs to play probably a little bit better, I want to say. I want to see him get to the quarterback and get more pressure on a regular basis. But 10 sacks is definitely better than what we saw last year. He had a very bad year last year. Trey Hendrickson's a free agent this year. Yeah, no, like, yeah. Is Trey Hendrickson going to be... Oh. Ooh, if Trey Hendrickson available, I wouldn't hate Trey Hendrickson. Jalen Phillips might be available as well. He's probably a good pickup too, because he's been huge for the Eagles defensively. He's a huge trade deadline pickup. I mean, he could. I would be very intrigued to see if they could get Trey Hendrickson. Even on like a 1-year, 2-year deal. I think Jalen Phillips would probably be more 1 year if they do. Top defensive tackle, John Franklin Myers of the Broncos. He might be pretty good. That'd be nice. All right, this is kind of ridiculous. I don't want to see this ranking. I just want to see, okay. Is this better? Yes. All right. All position groups. I want defensive line. We'll go edge defender first. Yeah. Trey Hendrickson, Hassan Reddick, Khalil Mack's a free agent, Joey Bosa, Malcolm Kuntz, Leonard Floyd. How long is Joe Thuney under contract? Oh, I don't know how long Joe Thuney's contract is. It was a 3-year deal. And they signed a 2-year extension. So let's see. Yeah, he's under contract the next 2 seasons. He'll be a free agent in 2028. So yeah, it's Trey Hendrickson that's probably the biggest prize when it comes to edge rushers. Interior defensive lineman, DJ Reader for the Lions, John Franklin Myers, Larry Ogunjobi, David Onyemata. And those are just the free agents. You know, Andrew Billings is a free agent this offseason. I don't expect they'll re-sign him. But, you know, like, that's who you'd probably want to go for if you're looking interior defensive line. But you can also go for a guy in a draft. Let's see. Best remaining players. ESPN's board. Yeah. Yeah, there are 10 guy, 11. Oh my goodness. It looks like the edge position is also looking pretty deep in the draft this year. Seriously, Khalil Mack would make headlines if he came back to Chicago. I don't know if Fernando Mendoza's declared for the draft this year, but it looks like it's going to be him or he has. I don't know if he has, but Ty Simpson's the top prospect? No. Ty Simpson looked terrible. Dante Moore's it's probably going to be Dante Moore or Fernando Mendoza. Those are probably the two guys who the Raiders might pick. Ooh. Let's see, defensive tackle. Let's see. The Bears could get someone like Amari Washington from Oregon. I'm just looking at the overall positions. Like, I don't know. Mid to late 20s. I mean, the third defensive tackle on the board is Amari Washington. He's got an overall rank of 22. So it's like, if the draft goes straight just by who's the overall rank, then, he could be available. The edge position specifically has 10 guys in the top 50 overall prospects. So the edge grouping is pretty deep this year. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears decided to go with one of them. Yeah. I don't know. Ruben Bain Jr. from Miami's the 4th overall prospect. Keldrick Falk from Auburn, 8th. David Bailey from Texas Tech, 9th. Then Mateo Uiagalelei, 19th from Oregon. So it's like they got 4 guys in the top 25. One of those guys could potentially slide. You never know, right? So it's like the Bears cap space will evaporate soon with all these guys on rookie deals. You got to get, This is a very pivotal offseason because, again, there's a lot of rookie contracts that they're going to have to make decisions on coming up soon. So we'll see what they decide to do. Trey Hendrickson, I think, would be a massive win for this team. And they could go for a guy like Max Crosby and try and work a trade. They could do that too. Yeah. You'd think one of them would fall, right? But, regardless of what happens next week, the Bears need to put priority on the defensive line, and then, they got to figure out how to find an edge rusher that they can pair with Montez Sweat or be better than Montez Sweat in the case like Trey Hendrickson. And then they need to, make sure that they draft young, too, in the defensive area, because the defense is where this team is a little older. I mean, Byard, Edmonds, Edwards, Jarrett, Sweat, all a little older. I wouldn't say that, and Jarrett is definitely unk status. He's definitely old. But, I would say that Byard has had a great season. I think that he could probably still have a good year or two left in him. Montez Sweat, I think, let's see. He got a half a sack in this game. He finished with 10 sacks, which is tied for 14th in the league. Hawks going to overtime with Vegas. Damn. Dude, another game. All right, boys. All right. Sure. Why not? But yeah. It is a very interesting situation here. Whatever happens, I think ends up, The Bertman, nice. Bertuzzi, good job. Bertuzzi's been playing pretty well with how things have been going, so I will definitely take that from him. I don't know. It's just whatever happens, happens. That's how I'm trying to attack this. I want them to win so badly against Green Bay because it's the Packers. Not just because it's the playoffs, but because it's the Packers. If they beat them in the playoffs, be the first time in the Super Bowl era, first time in pretty much every Bears fan's lifetime, because the only other time that they beat him in postseason play was back in the early 40s. Not even guys who were in their 80s have seen that happen. And even if they are in their 80s or in their late 80s, they were too young to watch the Bears play. Ooh, that's a good stat I can bring up for Tuesday. Hold up. Who do you think they'll lose? The thing that scares me the most is losing Al Harris. I have a feeling he's leaving. I have a bad feeling he's leaving. So, yeah, it sucks. Honestly, I don't think they're going to lose very many other guys. Al Harris is the only guy I think they might actually lose. Dennis Allen's already gotten like 2 head coaching jobs. He's not getting another one. Ben Johnson's in his first year. Declan Doyle's in his first year. Bieniemy might leave. Which sucks. I don't think Antoine Randall is going to go anywhere. I think he's tied to the hip with Ben Johnson. I don't think he really wants to go anywhere. But who knows? The bag and the money might be, something that comes up. Oh, gosh. I'm watching overtime here. Already. Declan Doyle. I don't think he leaves. It's his first year. It's his first offensive coordinator job. I don't think he leaves. Oh! Yeah! The Hawks win! Tyler Bertuzzi, natural hat trick! Let's go! Nice job. That thing barely got across the line. I gotta see this. I don't know. Did that thing get across the line? That looked real freaking close, man. Let's go, Vinny. We did it. Hawks win. They swept the back-to-back. You're right. They swept the back-to-back and a home road back-to-back, winning both games in extra session. All right, let me see it. I'll get back to the Bears talk here in just a second. Yep, that went in. That's it. It's over. Game over. Hawks win. Yeah! At least something went right today. Anyways, yeah, that's got me a little on edge. Just thinking about, the team going forward. I'm a little on edge. So, yeah, that probably is my signal to call it here. Are they challenging it? I think they're going to challenge it. Vegas is not leaving the bench. Yeah, Golden Knights are going to challenge this. Anyways, that's probably my signal to call things here. If you guys have any questions for the Bears here before next week, go ahead and let me know and get them in. Oh my God, they're challenging for offsides. Holy shit. They're challenging for offsides. It's not about whether or not the goal went across the line. Holy cow. Oh no. I don't think it... I didn't look offsides. You got a little time. We're going to watch this thing here. See if the Hawks end up winning. Let's listen to the broadcast here.
Of course, the review comes from the league, Panger, in overtime, right?
Review has determined that the play was onside. We have a good goal.
Good goal. Game over. Hawks win.
I was worried that people had to come down and get their hats. And we get a few
Let's go. All right, Hawks win. That's good to see. Anyways, if anyone has any final things to mention about the Bears, I'm going to get them in. If not, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, end things, and call it. Surprised I went this long, I'm not going to lie. I was not expecting that. But, you know, hey, that's just how things are. But, yeah. Yeah. Anyways. Yep, that's probably about it. I'm going to call it here. So, thank you all for hopping in the chat and saying what's up. And, you know, getting some of your thoughts about how things are going to go. What you're feeling. Because we're all in this together. We're all trying to get through this. We Bears fans have a long week ahead of us. Got a long week ahead of us. So, you know, and then game day. Most likely Sunday, but we'll see. And so, I don't know, man. It's going to be a lot. But, you know, victory is just going to be that much sweeter than, you know, as beating the Packers in the playoffs. Something the Bears haven't done in the Super Bowl era. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks for hopping on the stream. The next one we do. Hawks are 3-0 in 2026. That's something to celebrate. Well, you'll enjoy the first video for the Hawks this week coming up on Tuesday. I mean, yeah, I'll have that out on Tuesday. I should have that thing out by Tuesday. Hold me to that, please. Yeah. Anyways. Woo, baby. We got a real doozy this week. Not a good performance for the Bears. Good couple Hey, the fourth quarter wasn't too bad. But if they can only play in the fourth quarter, they are a long way away from winning a playoff game. So, yeah, I will see you all in the next stream. Reaction video coming out later tonight, early tomorrow morning, whatever ends up happening. And then, yeah, we'll have a video for the Hawks coming out this week, probably on Tuesday. And then, yeah, Bears playoff game next weekend. Got to fix a lot of stuff for next week. Not a complete performance, not a complete effort. It's a loss, but, you know, the score was not nearly as close as that game was. Or that score was way closer than that game felt. So, you know, that's how things work. It's whatever. Anyways, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of Sunday Night Football. Ravens lead 10-3. We'll see the time the Bears play after that game's over, and then the mental preparations begin. So please enjoy the rest of your football Sunday. Enjoy your week coming up, and then enjoy the rest of the playoff games outside of our own. And, yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.